Now, on the matter of study, besides the lessons, just like any course that you take, there's certain basic textbooks that you ought to have. And then, besides the basic textbooks, your professor always tells you, sometimes they give you a list of outside reading that is related that will help you in the course. Okay? But now, how many of you do not have a Holy Quran? Okay. That is number one. Okay. That's number one. And we understand that some of you have tried to get them, and we haven't had them. Because I was in Chicago, and we sent a box here. By the time I got to New York, the box was sold. So I know how they go. So we've ordered some more, and we're going to keep them on hand. But that is the first book. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that Master Farad Muhammad gave him a list of 104 books to read. And of the 104 books, the best one he gave him was the Holy Quran. Then that tells us that's our number one book. So you should have the Muhammad Ali version. That should be the first one you get. That's the one that we handle. The Muhammad Ali version. The reason we handle that is the first one that Master Farad Muhammad gave to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Now, we know that the Rabata does not accept that. We ain't worshiping the Rabata. We want to clear that up. Those of you just coming in, you're not coming in to be no Arab. You're coming in to be a Muslim. There's a difference. The largest Muslim country on earth don't have an Arab in it. Did you know that? Indonesia is the largest Muslim country on earth, and they are not Arabs. Okay? So Muslim and Arab are not synonymous. We ain't going to be wearing no headdresses and going through a lot of foolishness, okay? All right? I want you to understand that. All right. We don't care what they accept. Our God recommended that as the best one. He later gave the Honorable Elijah Muhammad a Yusuf Ali. Okay? Now, aside from those two, it's good to get others. It's good to get others and study them and compare them. You know? So when your money allows and when you run into some others, fine. Get those. The more of them you study, it's just like Bibles. The more of them you study, the better understanding you will get. Okay? Now, as I said, the Muhammad Ali is the primary one. Yusuf Ali is the secondary one. And I've got a Yusuf Ali. I gave away all of the rest of them that I had because I don't like the way that most of them read. It's a funny thing. But, yeah, like it's hard for me to read a Holy Quran that doesn't have Allah's name anywhere in it, And most of you Yusuf Ali, there's no God but God, and, all that kind of stuff, So I took for granted all of them were written like that. And it's just to show you how Allah works. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad went to Pakistan. When he got back, he told me that he had some Holy Qurans coming in. And he said that when they came in, his secretary would call me. And he said, don't wait until I had something to do in Chicago. When I got that call, come get that book. If I didn't come for no other reason. And it happened, that's the way it was. When I got the call, I didn't have any reason to go to Chicago. So what I did was, I went and caught the plane. I was living in Los Angeles at the time. I went and caught the plane, as per his instructions. I got to O'Hare, I rented a car. I drove up to his house and I rang the doorbell. Captain Sharif, the Supreme Captain of the Nation of Islam, opened the door for me. And he told me, well, come on in and sit down. He said, the messenger's in a meeting. I said, I didn't come to see the messenger. I came for my book. He said, oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. I stood in the hallway. I saw the Honorable Elijah Muhammad sitting in his dining room in a meeting with some Arabs. Man. And, I think he kind of looked around and nodded, but that's as far as that, and didn't even exchange words. Captain Sharif came in with my Holy Quran. I thanked him, gave him the greeting. I went and got in my car, went back to the airport, turned it in, got on the plane, and went back to Los Angeles. And still was too dumb to see this had to be an awful important book for this man to have me to do that. Still, I never read the book. I never opened the book. It's in the early 60s. I never opened the book. So, it must have been last year, or maybe earlier this year. No, it was last year. I had kept the book. The book had been stored in somebody's wet basement. It was in 2 boxes. The boxes had rotted all off, but the book was in perfect shape. Didn't even get down, you understand? I still ain't opened the book. Brother Edward Muhammad in Atlanta came to my house one night and told me he wanted to check something out and asked me did I have a Yusuf Ali version of the Quran. I told him I got one. I got rid of all of the rest of them. And the only reason I kept this one is because the Lord gave it to me. So I went back and got it, and he opened it up, and he laughed, because sure enough, when he opened it, it cracked. You know how a new book, it's 20 years later, he opened up the book, and the book cracked. So he really laughed. And I had told him why I didn't like Yusuf Ali. He said, Brother Allah, have you ever looked in this book at all? I said, no. He said, take a look at it. And I looked in it, and it starts off in the name of Allah. I said, God. You know, and so so for that reason, although I love the Muhammad Ali version, and that's the one I study most of the time, I know I've got to study this one, this particular one. I haven't seen another one like it, and the others I had were in 2 volumes and everything. It's in 1 big volume, and I still have not really stopped going through. I've looked through it, but I haven't really studied it. So I know I've got to study that particular book, because it was given to me for a particular purpose, and I don't know what yet. But those 2 books, those 2 Qurans, make sure that you have those, okay? Have yourself at least 1 good Bible. Now, my recommendation is that the first Bible that you get should be a King James Version. And the reason is because most of our people, that's the Bible that they deal with. And that's where we want to operate. There's no sense in you getting a New World Translation or something from the Jehovah's Witnesses, and that's only 1% of our people or something. That wouldn't make sense. It's good to get that later on when you want to deal with the JWs. I mean, that's fine. You understand? But to deal with the mass of our people, let's go where the mass of our people are. And as I've always said, if a man dies and you bury him in New York, you can dig all over Philadelphia. You'll never get him. You've got to go and dig where he's buried. Okay? So get you a King James. And then once you get a King James, if you want to be more scholarly and really understand more, try to get as many different versions as you can. The Layman's Parallel Bible that most of you have seen me teach with most of the time is excellent, because it has 4 versions laid right across the page so that you can compare them as you go. And the King James is one. It begins with the King James. It's got the 4 most popular versions, but that's something for you further down the pipe. Okay, but make sure that you have a good Holy Quran, at least the Muhammad Ali, if possible, Muhammad Ali and Yusuf Ali. Read the footnotes. I know some crazy folks. Really, been in Islam a long time and will tell you don't read the footnotes. Yeah, it's crazy. No, read the footnotes, read the index, read the introduction, the preface, everything in there, because it's information. Doesn't mean, in fact, as I say, you don't have to agree with everything in the footnotes. That's their interpretation. That's why it's good to get different versions. And you see that one man's footnotes will not agree with the other man's footnotes, and understand why they interpret them differently. Why does Muhammad Ali say, translate Zurqa in chapter 20, verse 102, on the day when the trumpet is blown, we shall gather the guilty blue eyes. And why does Yusuf Ali say we shall gather the guilty blear eyed? Read their explanations. Don't just argue one way or the other and don't have knowledge. Read both of their explanations. Why do you say it's this and why do you say it means that? Okay. Message to the black man is a necessity. The Fall of America, How to Eat to Live, volumes 1 and 2. Now, there's a book that's out of print that we've got to somehow get back in print because it's very key. Many of the early study guides refer to the book because it's so key to our study, and yet most of us don't. How many people in here have a copy of This Is the One? See, majority don't have it. See, that's a book we've got to really get printed. We've got to talk to the printer. I saw the printer again a couple of weeks ago. He's still alive, but that's a book we've got to get back in the press. Okay, and now there's one book that we're going to order here in New York, and we want. How many in here have the book, Is It Possible That the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is Still Physically Alive? Okay, good. Most of you have that. All right, we want to get that book. We want to make sure everybody has that book, and then we want to get that book out in the public. We want to really distribute that book. We want to challenge. You know, brothers and sisters, the minister indicated something at the formation of the parliament that's very key. Something that we brought up a year ago in Phoenix. And those of you who've been around here for a while, you've heard me mention that one point, if you notice, all of the hell that Minister Farrakhan has given the Jews, they have never attacked him on his belief that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is alive. Now, don't you know that if they thought they had something to fight with, they would love to jump up on international television and say, look at here, this Farrakhan guy thinks Elijah Muhammad's alive. He's not. They got to be scared the fact that they don't do it. They know that's what he teaches. They have printed it in their papers, but they don't repeat it too often. Hey? They don't want to challenge it. Well, hey, you've been out on them streets. You got the edge, press it. We don't sit back and say, well, see, he don't challenge me. No, let's put it out there. Let's rub his nose in it. So, yeah, he lives. He's alive. Oh, yeah. Ain't gonna let him slide away that easy and hide. No, we want to put it out there. This is also a test for us. The reason he brought it up, because some of us are weak in our belief. And we don't understand that that's the difference in our salvation and our lack of salvation, is that one thing. Let me tell you something, brothers and sisters. Don't you know that if you read the Gospels and you see those sorry disciples of Jesus, and they were sorry, weren't they? You ain't never seen them do a lick of nothing long as Jesus was with them, did you? They were weak. That's the one thing that was wrong with all of them, their faith. If you notice how often Jesus would say to them, oh, ye of little faith. Now these his disciples, he keep telling them that they ain't got no faith. He went out and walked the water, told Peter, come on. Peter got out there and started sinking. He said, oh, ye of little faith. There's nothing make him fail but his lack of faith. But they never had no faith. And they never got any job done. Show me anywhere in Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John where any one of the disciples, he didn't have just 12. Oh no, read it carefully. He had a bunch of them. When he started telling them what the job was, that's when he wound up with 12. Oh yeah. The Bible says many walked away and never walked with him again. When he sat telling them what they had to go through to inherit this kingdom, got split. They said, hey baby, we've been friends through thick and thin. You getting pretty thick. We got to thin out. Man. Right. At one point, he had 120. They numbered 120. At one point, you remember, he sent 70 of them out. He had a whole bunch of disciples. But check this. In Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, name one disciple that ever made one convert. They never raised nobody. All of them put together, like I said, they sent 70 out and 70 came back. Some of them cats had to be married. That means none of them even brought their wives back. They didn't raise nobody. But look at this. From the book of Acts on, you saw these fiery disciples, these apostles of God, going all over Asia. And everywhere they go, they were raising up followers, bringing them to the banner of Jesus Christ. What was the difference? What happened to them that they now had the zeal and the fire to raise the dead that they couldn't do it before? Because everything about Jesus, they could prove it. They saw him with their own eyes healing the sick and opening the blind's eyes. They saw that. They didn't have to have no faith in nothing. Everything they did, they could do on knowledge. So that means their faith was never developed. They never had to develop any faith in him because they could prove everything. It was right before their eyes. But after the crucifixion, their article of faith was, he lives. That was the first time they had ever had an article of faith to unite on. And since all of them united on that one article of faith, belief that the Christ was risen, they had the religious zeal to put it into the hearts of other people and raise the dead. We never had an article of faith. In Islam, we were the baddest debaters that the world ever saw, because we could lay it on the table and we could prove it mathematically in no limit of time. Couldn't we? Y'all used to see us do that thing. We would rip anybody apart that challenged this teaching. And we could lay it out there, and we could run them in the ground with every kind of proof in the world. And there was nothing that we could stand on and just say, no, we can't prove it, but I'll die believing it. Therefore, we didn't have that missionary zeal. The people that we were supposed to be raising up, we were raising up people just like us, weak in faith. So we built a whole nation of people with no faith. Here we are, supposed to be a people going to God with no faith. So today we have an article of faith. And since that is the difference, that is the key, the difference between success and failure as proven by the Bible, then we know that we need to nurture that more than we nurture anything else. Okay? And this is why I'm saying we need to press that thing. We need to press it for us. You know, you ever been in one of them, you about to have a rumble, and you scared, but you talk some courage into yourself. You talk so bad, you get brave for real. You understand? That's right. And especially when you see the enemy start flinching, you say, hey, I really am kind of mean. Hey, you pumping it into yourself. But this is how we have got to nurture. We say we believe it, then we get back and we get our little dot and say, well, even if I don't believe Elijah Muhammad is dead, I still believe Mr. Farrakhan. No. That's right, it ain't gonna work at all. As Mr. Farrakhan pointed out, if Honorable Elijah Muhammad wasn't alive, he couldn't do what he's doing. Couldn't no dead man back up Minister Farrakhan and have him doing the things he's doing. Don't you know that? No way in the world we could be in the name of a dead man trying to get this thing going with the heavy enemies. What dead man could hold them off of our heads? No. He lives. They know he lives. That's why they keep their mouths shut. We want to force them. Force them. Put a chip on our shoulder. Knock it off. That's right. We want to do that. But see, they want to deal with everything else. Let's make them deal with that. Let's make them deal with the physical aliveness of our Christ. Tell them, yeah, he beat death. The Bible said he beat it. The Holy Quran said he beat it. Except the Holy Quran ain't quite as spooky as the Bible's interpretation. Holy Quran kind of tell you how he beat it. Understand? Then the history of Muhammad, especially the one by Washington Irving, tells you how, again, gives you a little key about how he does it. You know? But he beat death. He didn't die. That's the difference. In the Christian teaching, they teach you that Jesus died and rose again. That's a picture of us who died and are now rising again. But in the Holy Quran, it said he was made to appear dead to the Jews. To the Jews. Because they're the ones wanting him dead. Hey? All right. So that is one textbook I want you to study. Now, we're getting another one in that most of you are aware of. It's ready now, and we're sending for it this week. That is a companion piece, in my opinion, to that particular book. And that's the one, Christ Was Not a Jew. Yeah, they're printed up. I asked you, you wanted them. You said yes, so we had them printed up. And we don't know how soon they'll be here, but we're going to send for them this week. And they'll get them in here as soon as possible. But reading that, and Is It Possible by Brother Jabril, I mean, you really ought to get a picture, I think, of exactly where our Lord is. Well, not physically where, geographically where. That doesn't make any difference. But when I say where he is, here as opposed to in a grave somewhere. And what the importance is to the Jews. Since the Holy Quran said it was to the Jews that he had to appear dead. And here we are battling the Jews today. Okay? Those two books together, I think, will give you some insight on it. And there are various other books as we go along on the outside that we will be dealing with. But those are your basic textbooks along with your lessons. Okay? Now, so you begin to study. There's more to Islam than study and belief. In fact, your Islam doesn't begin until you have studied and gotten the understanding and developed the belief to do something. When you make the move, that's Islam. See, even in the definition of terms, see, Islam is entire submission to the will of Allah. A Muslim is one who submits to the will of Allah. Both of those talk about something you do. Neither one of those talks about something you believe, although you must believe something to do that. Neither one of those talks about something. The religion and those adherents of the religion are described by action. You begin by doing something. Okay? All right.